In southern Ohio, the rich colors of autumn are upon us, and so are the last 2 rounds of the GNCC series. Team Suzuki's Rodney Smith has that title well in hand. But like the green leaves of summer that refuse to fall, so does Fred Andrews and his green Kawasaki. Both are hanging on and will not go away. Will the GNCC championship be decided here today? Stay tuned to Fox Sports Net. GNCC Racing is next. The cool weather to fall is in the air for the Grand National Cross Country Series presented by KTM. This is round 12. Hello, everyone. I'm Larry Myers. Welcome to St. Clairsville, Ohio, and I'll welcome Mark Hyde, as always, Fox Sports expert off-road analyst. Mark, a couple of things I want to address right off the top. The first one is the weather. It is cold out here today. The days of autumn are upon us, and it brought some cold wind with it.
Yeah, and the riders, they're going to love this weather. When it's a little cooler like this, you have more energy. The riders, they're not sweating and hot, so you'll see a lot closer racing actions, because the guys that kind of tend to fade at the end of the race, they'll be a little more refreshed, so they'll be able to give it 100% for 3 hours today. And the second thing is a brand new track. Now, none of the riders have ever ridden at the St. Clairsville, Ohio facility, and the track has, there are trees out there. They're real tight. It has some mud. It's about 9 miles long. There's some rocks. There's some wide open grass track areas. Track has everything that you could imagine. Now, what will they think of that? Well, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, Chuck Woodford of Team Green broke his leg, so he hasn't been able to ride. So he got in touch with Jeff Russell, and Jeff made him course marshal here for a week. And Chucky went out and he laid out a bunch of new bike-only sections. And since Chucky's a AA rider, they are very technical. We have some tight technical sections right at the beginning, a lot of off-camber, some rock sections, and then they come to a section with a hill in it. But there's about 5 ways up this hill, and of those 5 ways, the fast way is the hardest way. So you'll see some guys get hung up there, make some mistakes, and it probably won't be our pro riders, be some of the other classes that get hung up in there, but that could play a factor in what pro riders have to do there. So that's some decisions they have to make. Right after that's a quick little swampy section, back into another neat off-camber, rocky, technical section. So they have that to deal with, and it'll be fun for them to see what Chucky has laid out for them today. And fun for us to watch them on this brand new track. Now, prior to the race, none of the riders are allowed to take their motorcycles out on the trail. They are allowed to walk the trail to find out what is in store, and a good number of them actually walk that entire 9 miles. It occurs to me that there could be a problem with a new track, and that is called learning the racetrack. Where do we go? How do we remember it? So we asked the riders, how do you go about memorizing the situations on a particular racetrack?
When I walk the track, I just kind of get an idea. I used to go around and try to memorize the bad spots and corners and if I found a good line, where the good line was at, but now I just go out for a walk and just get out and just see what the terrain's like and kind of get the basic layout of the course.
Keys to learning a new track here, trying to find out where the bad spots are on Saturday. We come and watch the four-wheelers and kind of listen to those guys and go to those bad spots and try to find other ways around them. As far as walking the whole track in a new place, I don't really tend to do it because it's brand new for everybody. And the four-wheelers usually open it up, and I'm pretty good at picking things up the first lap. So other than that, we just really go to the mud holes and check those out.
If there's a mud hole you might go look at, you just look for a good line that for the first lap and definitely for later in the event, like, try and keep in mind that it's going to chew up, and you just look for what's going to be good later in the day.
Talk to people if there's any bad mud holes or uphills, anything where you possibly get stuck or there could be a bottleneck, something like that. Kind of try to go look at those areas, see if there's another way around and everything. And when you kind of drive in, it's going to be pretty cool because all the grass track, real nice area, good place to have a race, so you get a good feeling of it.
So much for the racetrack. Now let's talk about a couple of the riders that are going to ride as hard as they possibly can on that track. Rodney Smith can win the championship today. Fred Andrews is going to do everything in his power to keep that win streak alive that he has going and somehow hope for a miracle. First, Rodney, what kind of a race will he run?
I look for Rodney to jump out early, get up with the front guys. That's where he needs to be because he can't take this too easy. He has to, if Fred wins, he has to finish in the top 4 to wrap the championship up. But Rodney, you look at him, we've had 11 races so far this year. He has been on the podium, or actually first or second in 9 of those 11 races. So consistency, that's his middle name. Freddie, on the other hand, he's got no other choice than to go out and win and try to put pressure on Rodney. And the way he's been riding lately, I look for Freddie to maybe win this one again today, but I also look for Rodney to do what it takes to win that championship and finish in one of those first 4 positions.
What it amounts to is it's going to be a great race no matter how you look at it. Let's take a look at the point standings.
You can see Rodney Smith is on top, and if he finishes in the top 4 today, he will wrap up the championship.
And that's regardless of what Fred Andrews might do. On Fox Sports Net, we got cross-country racing coming up. GNCC Racing on Fox Sports Net is brought to you by KTM Sport Motorcycles and by CD Boots. Fall colors and the nip in the air tells us that it's closing in on the final rounds of the GNCC series. That's a winter coat that Steve Hatch is wearing.
Yeah, the temperatures deserve a winter coat today. It's cool right now, but once this race starts, it's going to heat up in a hurry, Larry.
Now, like you pointed out, as we take a look at the track facts here at Powerline, they're going to go faster because it is cold. About 10 miles long this track is. 17 riders of the 185 that will start are in the professional class. They're the ones that we look to for all the action. Take a look at the starting lineup here on Fox Sports Net. Shane Watts, Andrews, Hatch, Hawk, Jarrett Raines. There are so many guys that could win this thing. It's just an incredible array of stars. Jen Hildreth is down in the start line with at least one more.
Guys, one more guy to keep an eye on, number 19, Cole Calkins on the Kawasaki. He is our current 258 class champion, but these last 2 rounds he decided he wanted to come out here and see how he stacks up against the best off-road racers in the world.
And I suspect we'll see Calkins out here next year as a regular on the pro circuit. Dead engine start, they kicked them, the bike start, and they are underway.
Steve Hatch is underneath, got a good jump off the line like he always does, but Shane Watts outpowers him to the inside of the next corner. Shane up front early. It looks like maybe those bad rides are behind him.
Shane Watts really grabbed a handful of throttle. He started about in the middle, and he would not give way to anyone. Look at these bikes take the corner. They are sideways everywhere but upside down, and I'm glad they're not that way. This is a fast track to start on.
Yes, it is. It's nice that riders have a lot of room to work out there. And Freddie Andrews, he's kind of off to a bad start. But Shane, he's typically the bad starter of the group, but he's up there front early. And Paul Whibley from New Zealand is right behind him. Those two are trying to get away here early and show the Americans what off-roading is all about.
So an Australian and a New Zealander take 1 and 2 off the start as the rest of the field follow. And boy, you hit the nail on the head when you mentioned Fred Andrews did not get a good start. Well back in the pack, and normally Fred would be running up front. And look at this, Whibley has taken over the front runner's position. Watts is running second, and there is Steve Hatch in third. First mud hole of the day, just a little one up that hill and some more wide open trail as they crest that little upgrade section.
Yes, and Rodney Smith was right behind Steve. That's a great position for Rodney because he really wants to wrap that title up today. I was talking to him a little bit earlier. A lot of pressure on him, but he wants to get this thing over with.
Mike Lafferty was well back in the pack also, just barely ahead of Andrews as we'll get aboard the KTM MotoCam.
Oh, we're in behind 6-time National Enduro champ Randy Hawkins. Randy is in one of the bike-only sections here. This is going to be one of the tighter sections we see, and this should really bode well for Randy. This is what he grew up on, riding these tight technical woods like this.
The bike only that Mark referred to. You see, yesterday there was an ATV race here. In fact, we saw it 1 week ago on Fox Sports Net. But they've added some motorcycle sections that are brand new trail, extremely tight as you can see. And that's where the title comes from, bike only. Hawkins is really getting through this stuff.
Yeah, this is what Randy, was born and raised on down in the deep south there. A lot of tight woods and that you see in all the enduros. So this is Randy's be Randy's most comfortable section of the day.
You can believe, folks, how fast he is going, and they will be passing in that section a little bit later this afternoon as this race wears on. Shane Watts cutting a little bit of the corner there. That was a smart move on his point. He found some good traction as Whibley still holds down the front runner's position with Watts second and Hatch third.
Yeah, the Team Suzuki guys are right behind him there trying to make up some tracks. Jimmy Jarrett, another Suzuki rider. Robbie Jenks, Mike Trudowski. Look at these guys coming through. And Mike Lafferty. It must be the KTM guys that are the only ones who know about that inside line there.
And there was Fred Andrews. What would Andrews want to do at this point since he did get such a bad start? Does he have to go all out in the first couple of laps, or can he take his time as we're back on the KTM Moto Cam watching the battle for the lead? Can he take his time and let the field sort out and pass it one by one?
With the guys that are up front at this race, Shane Watts, Rodney Smith, Steve Hatch, he needs to get on a charge here because these guys are just too good to give him that much of a lead. They'll probably get away early. Oh my goodness, Larry.
I think our Moto Cam, our KTM Moto Cam, just tangled with a tree. Here's the mud hole. The riders split lines. Watts goes to the right of your screen and takes over the #1 position.
Boy, Shane didn't waste any time there. Made the big charge through the mud hole, which I'm kind of surprised he took a chance this early in the race. You saw him pulling the roll-offs after that. Got himself a little bit muddy, but made the pass and got clean vision, and he's gone.
You saw them tugging at something up around their helmet. Actually, that's a little string that hangs down. You pull that, and a shield or screen wipes across the front of your helmet. You can see, again, that's got to be great in itself.
Yes, especially on a course like today because there's a lot of mud and water out there, so vision is going to be very important. You're going to have to make some really good decisions. We're going to check out the RacerX leaderboard, and we'll be back on Fox Sports Net.
Welcome back to GNCC Racing on Fox Sports Net. We're early in the race, and Shane Watts has already developed somewhat of a lead. In fact, he has developed a considerable lead. Whibley is running in second place. Third place is the property of Rodney Smith. And whoa, who's stuck? Who's stuck there?
That's Steve Hatch stuck in that mud hole. This is the one we talked about before the race. And all three of those guys took the same line. It kept getting worse and worse. And Steve, he should have changed lines and done something different right there.
Well, I guess that's good hindsight.
Yeah, you can see, though, he's got a lot of room here to work with, and it was kind of monkey see, monkey do. The first two guys made it through that spot, and Steve said, Mike Lafferty.
Off to the right, that's Lafferty. He's stuck.
Wow,
there goes Fred Andrews around to the left of Lafferty. He went on the right side of your screen. Hawkins follows, and boy, those are crucial errors made on the part of a couple of riders early in the game.
And look at Mike Lafferty coming down the inside here, taking a little different line, just blows by Josh McLeavy here. And then we go from that to Michael in his mud hole, where he had all this room to work with, Larry. Could have gone anywhere and just picked the wrong spot. So it just goes to show you, no matter how good you are, you can be right and wrong all in the same lap.
Well, Hatch was wrong and Lafferty was wrong, and you're right. He was in the wheel track. He was in the wheel track of Rodney Smith, and my gosh. He paid a price there. Shane Watts, first rider through the check.
Yeah, Shane, he's really setting a blistering pace here on the first lap. We saw him do this early in the year, and we haven't seen a lot out of Shane since. Maybe the break, the time off did him some good, and he's ready to go racing. But Rodney Smith, the guy of the hour, he's the one that's going to try to wrap up that championship today, and he's moved into second place.
He has passed Whibley, who is back now in third.
Yes, Whibley, he's jumped out a few. Oh, he's pointing at something there, Larry. I didn't quite catch what that was all about. But he's jumped out a few times this year early and then kind of faded back a ways.
Well, the rider right behind Shane Watts is our Moto Cam rider, our KTM Moto Cam rider. That is Chuck Woodford, who laid out a good deal of this racetrack. And here comes Rodney Smith in second.
Well, they've opened up a little bit of a lead because, as you recall, Steve Hatch was right behind Rodney when they got stuck in that mud hole, so they've been able to open up a little bit of distance on the rest of the group.
Here is Whibley holding out in third, and it's still a mystery to us as to what might be wrong. He made a signal, a gesture to his pit crew when he came through at the end of lap number 1. Now, was that Hatch?
Yeah, there was Steve Hatch and Mike Kiedrowski right behind him. As you recall, Steve was back in that mud hole, and Fred Andrews, boy, he's made the big charge. He's already up in 6th place, and that mud hole helped get him there.
Well, you said that's what Andrews needed to do. He needed to be on the gas early, and he is. And a slight, just very slight, almost a mistake on the part of Watts, but he recovered beautifully. That's what champions do. And look at the lead he has opened up. Watts is just killing him this first lap. Here's Rodney Smith in second, and as you pointed out earlier, 4th place is good enough to win the championship. So Rodney does not need to be concerned at this point with Shane Watts and the big lead. The gap between the two of them doesn't need to be concerned at all. They leave the wide open grass track area and duck into the woods.
And Steve Hatch jumping into that same rut Rodney was in, and Shane Watts, he had a little bit of trouble. He tried to turn out of that rut too early, just like Freddie Andrews did. Those guys need to look for a little different line in there, a little bit smoother.
Look at Andrews. He is right on the rear wheel of Kiedrowski, who is chasing Steve Hatch. Andrews has definitely closed the gap. He's in 5th place with 4th and 3rd within almost shouting distance.
Yes, he's really picked the pace up, and he needs to do it too. These guys up in front of him are too good to let get away this early in the race. And Shane Watts, man, he is just flooring it right now.
That was Watts. He is your leader, and right behind him again, that was the KTM Motocam rider.
Yeah, Chuck Woodford, we got him doing double duty here. He helped lay these sections out. Now he's riding them for us.
The last rider we saw was number 31. That was Rodney Smith.
Yes, and then Robbie Jenks, Mike Lafferty, and Josh McLeavy, 3 of the young guys. They got a big battle going there.
Steve Hatch and Mike Kiedrowski, teammates for Rodney Smith. Andrews needs to get by them. Would there be team tactics here?
With Fred trying to get around these guys, it'd be trying to pass a semi-truck on a single-lane road right now, Larry. They're going to do everything possible to keep Fred behind them. They're not going to do anything dirty, but they're going to make it extremely hard for Fred to get by because they know the championship is very important to Rodney and to Team Suzuki.
We saw Mike Lafferty. He recovered from being stuck in the mud hole also, just as Hatch did. And this is the type of terrain that you would expect Lafferty to do extremely well in. Look at Watts. He reached it up to pull a string on the Smith roll-offs that he wears. Almost lost it. He got sideways, but recovered nicely. Never let up on the gas. He went through that mud section beautifully.
He's got this mud hole figured out. This is where he made the pass for the lead. And here comes Rodney Smith right behind him. You can see Rodney, he's a little more cautious because he's got a lot more at stake today. The big picture for him is winning the championship, not this race. Trying
to pick out the best line possible, the one with the least water in it, and hopefully the most traction. But look at Watts. Caution. I don't know what that means today, he says, and he just gasses it.
You know, too, his mom and dad are over here. This is the first time they've ever seen him race in America, so he's probably got some extra motivation today.
Rodney Smith, number 31 in 2nd place, gets a little sideways. This is Fox Sports Net, and we have more action to come. Welcome back to Fox Sports Net. You're watching GNCC Racing, and that is Cole Calkins. We talked about him earlier in the year, decided to give the pros a chance since he had already wrapped up the 250A class, and Cole appears to be out of it, either with a mechanical or a personal problem. But now word has reached us that he did take a tumble. He is okay, but shaken up. So Cole Calkins will apparently not be riding with us the rest of the afternoon.
That's a tough break for the youngster, Larry. He was really looking forward to getting out there and mixing up with the pro guys and see how fast those guys really went. Hate to see that first time out for the youngster.
Somewhat faster than he thought, I would imagine. Meanwhile, at the head of the pack, Shane Watts has done nothing but put distance between himself and the rest of the field. He took the lead on the opening lap, and wow, has he disappeared. Look at this. This is unbelievable that he has turned in that kind of a performance.
Boy, he has really stretched it out on the rest of the field, and Rodney Smith in 2nd place, and that could be one of the reasons he stretched it out, because Rodney, he doesn't really have to beat Shane or catch Shane. As long as he finishes in the top 4, he's got this championship in the bag, so he's probably just riding a smart race.
Well, he might be on cruise control. Then I would have to ask, why aren't Hatch and Kiedrowski catching up? I wonder, Would Watts be maybe putting a stamp on this season? You know, he's not done all that well, and he is the defending champ.
Well, like any of the top sports performers, you want to, you want people to know you're at the top of your game and you're the best there is. He's got a lot of pride, and without a doubt, Shane wants to go out there. It's like, hey, I've had problems early in the year, but this is what you guys are going to see next year.
Good point, and that's the lead that Shane Watts has as Rodney Smith still holds on to second place, and even when he's in cruise control, he's going fast. Look at the lead he has over third and fourth place, his Suzuki teammates.
Yes, and that's probably going to make Rodney extremely comfortable knowing that your two teammates are behind you. So if they do catch up to him, he's not going to have to worry about somebody taking him out or having problems and things like that. So he's in a great position right now.
We'll take a look at what happened to Fred Andrews. You recall he was right behind Mike Kudrowski, and there he is. He just got a wheel out of place.
Yeah, you see, they came through those ruts, and he got a little out of shape, and then there were some tree roots right after that. And the tree roots didn't go parallel with the trail. They kind of angled you off, and that front tree root just took his front wheel and took him down, and now he's trailing his roll-offs. He landed on his head, probably broke the roll-off canister off, so now he's out of film, and Mike Lafferty is all over him right now.
Lafferty was like a minute and a half down. He was a minute and a half off the pace. Here comes Josh McLevy, and Lafferty is closing the gap. Here's a battle for 8th and 9th place, Jenks and Hawk.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of really good battles all over the race course. And Mike Lafferty, he just won the National Enduro last week up in Michigan. He switched to a KTM 400 4-stroke, so maybe the new bike has Mike motivated today.
Could very well be, but no one is as motivated as that guy, Shane Watts. At least no one is catching him. He is opened an incredible margin between himself and Rodney Smith, who was in second place. Rodney chasing the championship. Fourth place is all he needs.
Yeah, and that's if Fred Andrews wins the race, and Freddie, he's not in that position yet. You can see Steve, he moved over a little bit. This is the section that took Freddie down. Uh-oh! Boy, those ruts are really giving people fits. That's the same section that took Fred Andrews down early in the race, and you've got some ruts followed by tree roots, and that's what's getting the guys down there.
Steve Hatch was in third. He's rider number 4. The guy in fourth place, number 12, that was Mike Kudrowski. Now Shane has switched lines. He's going off to the right side of the screen through that mud hole. There are two ways through that thing. You can either go to the rider's right or to the rider's left.
Boy, and Rodney Smith has closed in a little bit on him on this lap. That's the most conservative I've seen Shane go through that mud hole yet today. The first two laps, as you recall, he just blitzed through this section.
And here come Watts. Excuse me, here come Hatch and Kudrowski, the teammates to Rodney Smith.
Yes, the front pack here, they're starting to group up just a little bit. And this being a new course, we talked about it earlier, maybe the other guys just took a little bit longer to get warmed up to it than Shane did. Shane might have got here a little bit earlier, maybe walked it a little more, knew things a little bit better. It could have just suited his riding style better. But now everybody seems to be warmed up and charging hard.
The field is definitely catching the leader, Shane Watts. Here comes Fred Andrews. Fred trying to get back in it after that miscue that we saw that took him out of contention and dropped him way to the back of the pack. Hey, there's a lot of race action yet to come as we look at the running order. This is Fox Sports Net. GNCC Racing on Fox Sports Net, and a big surprise. Shane Watts has not come through. Here's your leader, rider number 4, Steve Hatch. Now, Hatch was in third, and Rodney Smith. There's Smith coming in right behind Hatch. So Smith dropped off the pace, and it looks like Watts is out entirely, Mark.
Yeah, remember earlier in the race, oh, there goes Kudrowski. He's now up to second place. And Freddie Andrews, he's coming in here a close fourth. But remember, we had that bad mud hole that caught a lot of the guys early. That thing is going to get nothing but worse. So maybe these guys caught up because of the mud hole, and you just saw him pull a filter skin off Fred Andrews' bike while he was in there, too.
Well, it could be that mud hole swallowed Shane Watts. We have no idea where he is. There has been no report. And here comes Mike Lafferty. Lafferty would be in 5th place.
Yes, Michael, he's making a big charge because that mud hole got him early in the race. He spent some time in there, and he was over a minute and a half down, and he has worked up from a long way back.
Well, both Lafferty and Andrews, victims of crashes, are making their presence felt. But the big news is we don't know, as Steve Hatch comes by as the leader, where is Shane Watts?
Yeah, Shane still has not come through the pitch yet. The Suzuki teammates, they're out front. Actually, we got a Suzuki freight train, 1, 2, 3. And those guys are in great position now, but like you said, where is Shane Watts?
Here's Fred Andrews. He's in 4th place, and Andrews knows that Watts is gone. Andrews is on the gas. He is flat, and there's the answer. There is Watts. Shane Watts. I'm going to take a guess here and say that Shane did not have a mechanical failure. He's had some kind of an injury, crash-related injury. He's not feeling well at all.
No, he's not looking in real good shape there, Larry. They got him sitting down there talking to him. We'll have to get one of our pit guys down there and see what's happened to him.
Now look at this. Rodney Smith is back in front. Fred Andrews is running in 2nd place. And here come Hatch and Kidrowski. Ow! Have we got a race here or what?
Man, this is the 4th race in a row where it's been Smith and Andrews out front. Those two guys are just going at it.
Here's your leader, number 31. He's on the right-hand side of the screen. He'll be the one going fast here in just about a second. There he is. He switches sides to the racetrack. Andrews follows him. Andrews is on the green machine, rider number 3. Suzuki Freight Train right behind him, and I'm looking for Lafferty, and I think he just came into the picture. Here he is in 5th place.
Yes, Michael's lost contact with that front group just a little bit, but the pace he's been riding, he should be able to catch these guys pretty quick.
Bob Walker has caught up with Shane Watts in the pits.
Shane Watts, you had high expectations today. You're running up in the lead there. Looked like you had it. Tell us what happened.
I just in the lap riders and it got a little bit agitated and finally got past one guy and made a little mistake, went off the edge of the track and just ran straight into a big tree and just stopped dead and actually knocked the tree over. And I don't know, I hit my leg and it feels a lot like when it does after I damaged the ligaments in my other knee. So I don't know, we'll wait and see what happens. It may be just just strained and just muscular damage. I don't think anything's broken, but just I don't know. I thought we were having a good ride going, and we were, and we're going to try and get out of this slump that I've been in this year, and the disastrous year continues on. I'm just lost for words over it, but all I do is hopefully get this thing worked out and roll up in the next race and continue on from where I was today.
Boy, there is a disappointed young man.
Yes, the year started out so promising for Shane, just was doing everything right. And then, boy, after Loretta Lynn's, it just went downhill from there. And Rodney Smith, just the opposite. Started off a little slow and just been Mr. Consistency since then.
Meanwhile, Kidrowski has moved up to 2nd. Fred Andrews is 3rd. And where is Steve Hatch?
Boy, that mud hole out there, that's the place where I'd think he would be. That's just been a tricky section all day, been getting a lot of guys. And just not that one place, there's a bunch of places throughout this whole course that have really been getting after these guys.
So Andrews at one time appeared to be out of it. It just looked like he didn't have a prayer to win this thing, and he is right back into it in spades. Stay with us on Fox Sports Net. This is GNCC Racing on Fox Sports Net, and that is Jimmy Jarrett, who has parked his Suzuki in the pits. He is okay, just out of the race, some kind of a mechanical problem. So Jarrett ends his day early. The number 7 will not be seen out in the race course. Let's take a look at our race reset. Al Smith is up front. That one is an easy to answer. He's going for a championship, and Shane Watts is out of the race. Now the thing that gets me is Lafferty has joined the front runners from 1.5 minutes down. And the big bad news, Steve Hatch. He has had freak engine problems all year long, and he's plaguing him again. Our leader, Rodney Smith, followed by Andrews. And there is Mike Kidrowski. And look at that, 4th place, right on their rear wheel. They're all together. That was Mike Lafferty. KTM Motocam, Mark.
Yeah, we're going to jump in behind Steve Hatch here and see what's going on with Steve. You see a little bit of dust. Oh, this is the one big water crossing we're coming to. Steve charging into there. Boy, you can see as you come up there, it's like, which way am I going to go? But that's why the riders go out, walk the course. They talked about it earlier, and this was a section they looked at for sure.
Mark, the report is, or was rather, that Hatch was having engine problems, and it looks like he's going fast. Now, what is this? What is this all about?
Well, you saw him stop there talking to one of the guys alongside the trail and hollered something at it, so there must be something going on there. We don't know for sure what it is yet. Boy, the thing just sounds awful. You can hear it blubbering. It sounds like it's running with the choke on.
Look at this. The lead has switched. That's Fred Andrews out front with Lafferty in 2nd.
Boy, these two have made the big charge to the front. They were both kind of back early, made some mistakes, but now they are just on the gas hard, and Michael, he is all over Fred.
Someone told Lafferty he was in second place. He's never won one of these things, never won a GNCC event, and he is pumped up. This guy is looking for passing room over Fred Andrews, an ex-professional motocrosser. Lafferty has ridden the wheels off that motorcycle. He has come from 1 minute and 30 seconds back to be in the rear wheels of the leader. Incredible charge.
Yes, and he's riding that new 400 four-stroke, a bike that he hasn't ridden a whole lot. He's always normally rides his 250. He won the National Enduro on it last Sunday, and looks like the thing's treating him well.
Wow, there is Kidrowski, and he just let Rodney Smith by.
Yeah, right there, that move looked to me like a little bit of team tactics there. They're trying to win a championship. And, oh, Rodney Smith coming into gas. If you recall, we just saw him gas 2 laps ago, and this is going to be a 7-lap race. So after gassing on the 3rd lap, maybe they must not thought they had enough gas to get to the finish.
This is not the time to take chances. You know, you're going for the title, so spend 10 seconds and get the gas. Back out on the racetrack, Fred Andrews still leads. Lafferty running second. And there is 3rd place, Mike Kidrowski. Wow, things change in GNCC racing in a hurry, don't they?
Yes, they do, and here comes Rodney. And actually what they just did there was an extremely smart move on Suzuki's part. I used to do that maneuver with Rodney a lot. When you have to gas twice, we would gas back to back. Oh, here comes Steve Hatch into the pits with bike problems. They're going to work on that thing and see if they can figure out what's wrong with it.
He just jumped right off. Boy, could this guy have had any more problems this year? I mean, he ran out of gas once. They had water in their gas another time. And both times, as is, you know what, this is the 3rd time, he was right up front and leading.
Yeah, Steve, it's just one of those years, you know, as good as Rodney's year has been, his teammate Steve Hatch has been just the opposite. Every time he's up front having to charge, something the wheels just come off on him.
Well, you have got to feel for Steve Hatch, but not for Fred Andrews. He's your leader. There's Lafferty in the number 2 position, and Rodney Smith now has moved up to 3rd. Where's Kidrowski?
Wow, Rodney has put on a charge because he just stopped, got a splash of gas, left the pits in 4th, and here comes MK. He's a little bit back, and I'm sure he didn't hold Rodney up much when Rodney caught him.
The fortunes of GNCC racing. Boy, do they change quick.
And Jason Raines, the young Yamaha star, man, he has moved up pretty quick, too. He's within striking distance of the leaders now.
Boy, we saved the best for the tail end of the season. I guarantee you it has been good, but this is even better. Andrews, Lafferty, Rodney Smith in that order. Then behind them will come Mike Kidrowski and Jason Raines. There's that muddy section that has given so many riders so many problems all day long.
Yes, this is a very tricky section. You got to be careful, but when you're racing like this, sometimes you have to go throw caution to the wind. And look at Jason Raines.
Like Jason Raines is doing right now.
Yes, Mike went a little slow through there, but Jason, the young kid, he said, buddy, I'm coming after you.
Hey, what do you got to lose? You know what? The season's winding down. It's a chance to, and who's stuck in the mud?
That's one of the guys from the other class, but here come the front guys. Fred Andrews, Mike Lafferty charging through there, Rodney Smith. That's the mud hole that's been getting ugly, Larry. Look at that thing. Remember when we started, that thing was 20 feet wide. And we'll be back with more on Fox Sports Net.
Welcome back to Fox Sports Net and the finest cross-country racing you'll ever see. It is the GNCC Series. There goes your leader, Fred Andrews, rider number 3. Mark, you don't like who's leading? Stick around because it's going to change. It always does. Let's go back to Lafferty. He's in 3rd place. Jason Raines running his rear wheel. Incredible race action. Now, meanwhile, Jen Hildreth is standing by in the pits with late-breaking news.
Update on the status of Cole Calkins. He did have an accident on the 1st lap. We believe he ran into a tree. You saw him ride his bike back into the pits. The emergency personnel were here. They did an excellent job looking him over, but still had some questions that there might be some internal injuries, so his father took him to the hospital. Certainly not the type of debut at the pro level that the young Kawasaki star hoped to have.
Next one down, next one down.
Well, thank you, Jen. Our best to Cole Calkins, and hopefully that is not a big problem. There's your leader, Fred Andrews, rider number 3 aboard the green Kawasaki. Right behind him comes Rodney Smith. He's in a quest for the championship. He doesn't need to be riding this hard, but he is. There is Jason Raines in 4th. Immediately ahead of him, we saw Mike Lafferty on his KTM in 3rd. Some kind of action.
Yes, and Mike Kidrowski, he is right behind those guys. Boy, you just you know, miss a little bit of a beat and you're going to lose 2 positions.
We're on the final lap of racing. Here's the battle for the lead.
Freddie Andrews, he's getting pressure from Rodney, and Rodney, he's followed by Mike Lafferty. Mike's moved up, taking some different lines, trying to work his way around Rodney. Uh-oh, and Mike goes down, Larry. Oh, man, you got to feel bad. Michael's been having a great ride today, but I like the fact that he's choosing different lines and trying different things to get around the leads. Oh, and Jason Raines gets by him while he's getting back going again.
First off, I'm amazed that the motorcycle even started, as he's now being pushed by Mike Kidrowski after flopping in that soupy, muddy situation. But boy, that has got to be a heartbreaker. How's this one going to turn out? Who's going to win? Will Rodney just sit back there in second and let Fred go, or as hard as he's been pushing, does he want to go for the win?
Oh, I'm sure he wants to win, but he's smart enough to know not to take chances. And if Freddie makes a little mistake, you know, Rodney will sneak right there through that door that Freddie opened. Michael, he's still having some problems there.
Yeah, the motorcycle is just bogging down.
No, I think his glove's all wet there. Oh, you can see here he's trying some different lines to get around Rodney. See him going out there, he gets cross-rutted, gets a wheel in 2 different ruts, then hits the outside of that one, and down he goes, and that's our CD Booth Thrill Seeker shot of the day.
Boy, not if you're Mike Lafferty, that's no thrill seeker. That was a race loser. He was on the gas. Here's your leader. You think this is the first lap as hard as he is riding. He has started to put just a little bit of distance, in fact, quite a bit of distance between himself and Rodney, and oh, boy, yeah, that's it. Stand right behind the rear wheel of a motorcycle in the mud.
Boy, Rodney almost got hung up right there. You heard his bike bog down a little bit. Here comes Jason Raines. He's still getting through that.
Whoa!
Well, you got to get through the mud hole and dodge spectators.
Mike Kidrowski is in 4th place. He had passed Mike Lafferty. You know, I think maybe, just maybe, Smith, reality set in, and Lafferty continues to have problems. Still holding down 5th. Maybe reality has set in. Rodney does not need to be pushing for that title. He needs to back off the pace a little bit. That's just exactly what he has done. Let Fred go. Win the championship, Rodney.
Yep, that's what Rodney's thinking right now, is championship. He wants to take that 3 off that motorcycle, so it's just a number 1 come next year.
Rodney Smith, he has already won a pair of GNCC championships. Then he's skipped a year. He was injured throughout the biggest part of last year, but has stormed back this year with a vengeance. Cast a look to his left over his shoulder, wanting to know where everyone is, and, well, that's not hard to figure out. They're right behind you, Rodney.
Yeah, and they did some good strategy there in the Suzuki pits. When we had the 2 gas stops, Rodney gassed back to back, and that's something he and I used to always do. That way, late in the race, Mike Lafferty had to pull in for some gas, and that's when Rodney passed Michael, so it was a very easy pass to make. So not only did Rodney ride a smart race today, but Casey Bolton in the pits made some very excellent calls today also.
White flag, which switches to checker as Fred Andrews crosses the line. Here comes Rodney, the 2001 champion. Yes, sir. Good job, Rodney, all year long. Boy, that's got to be a load off your mind. Hey, we'll be back on Fox Sports Net to relive the excitement. Stick with us. GNCC Racing on Fox Sports Net has been brought to you by KTM Sport Motorcycles and by CD Boots. Easily one of the best races we have had all season. Jen Hildreth is with our 2001 champion, Rodney Smith.
Rodney Smith getting 2nd place today in this race, but he got the job done. He wins the championship. Congratulations, Rodney.
Thanks, Jen. You know, I came here to do a job today, and you know, I knew I needed a 4th or better to wrap up that title, and that was my main concern, was to get up front and run a good race early. And, you know, anything can happen out there. My Dunlop, Suzuki, FMF, you know, Moose Racing, Smith Goggles, CTI, everybody's been helping us great. And Casey Bolt, my wife, been working really hard. And we had a job to do, and that was to get up here on the podium. We knew we'd clinch the championship today. And with a track like this, it was technical, and I just knew I needed to be up front.
Obviously, it was brutal out there. Guys dropping out, Watts, Jarrett, McLeavy, Calkins. But did you ever worry you were pushing too hard?
You know, I was fortunate enough that my Suzuki got me out front early. My Dunlop tires hooked up real well on the start, and I got a good start, and I could run up front and kind of control the race. So I felt like I was riding conservative. I was riding strong, and you know, about the halfway mark, Freddie came up because he wasn't there at the beginning, and I didn't know where he was. So when he came up and passed me, I knew all I had to do was hook on and follow him to the finish, and the championship would be ours, it'd be over, and all the pressure would be off. So my hat's off to Freddie. He's run some good races. He's got 3 wins in a row, but I came back and got 3 seconds right behind him in a row, and I knew that's what I needed to do.
Well, Rodney Smith won this championship in 98 and 99, proving he's a winner here again because he is our 2001 GNCC champion. Back to you guys.
Woo! Hey, way to go, Rodney. Hold up that #1 plate. Don't uncap that champagne till Mark and I get there. We want some. Here are the point standings. Rodney Smith has locked up the championship. Fred Andrews is a lock on 2nd place. Look at that battle, though, for 3rd. That one will definitely go to the wire. Meanwhile, we'll go to Bob Walker, who was with our race winner.
Hey guys, he was blazing fast today, worked his way up through the pack, 3 wins in a row. Freddie Andrews, this one's a little more difficult than the last 2. Tell us a little bit about your day.
Well, I didn't get off to a very good start today, and I had to come through the pack and threw myself on the ground 2 or 3 times, and I'm sure you've probably already watched that on TV because the camera guy was right behind me, and I'd throw myself down, and he'd stop and ask me if I'm all right, and I'd get up, and man, I just rode like a jerk at the beginning, and then I put my head down and started coming through those guys and got around them and got to the front where I needed to be, and I saw Rodney was right behind me, and I knew Rodney's too smart of a rider to do anything stupid. He was just going to cruise around in 2nd, and that's where we ended up 2nd. But, you know, I'm just here to win some more races, so next week I'm going to try for another one.
Now, with the earlier in the race, you had this Kudrowski and Hatch both in front of you, and Rodney was winning it. Did you feel like there was any team tactics going on there at all?
I was wondering, because Steve and Mike seemed like they were going, you know, fairly slow, and Mike was hitting all the dust berms, and Rodney was getting away, and I thought, well, that's what teammates are for. You know, if I had teammates, I'd expect them to help me out too, so, you know, nothing against those guys. But I just got them when they weren't ready a few times, and Steve was on the ground, and then I caught up to Rodney, and, you know, Rodney and I are good friends, and we ride well together, and, you know, my hat's off to him for being champ.
Guys, another great ride by Freddie Andrews. That's 3 in a row for him. Let's go over to Jen Hildreth, our 3rd place finisher.
Well, Jason Raines worked his way up through the pack. He had a horrible start, but he got his 3rd podium of the year. Jason, how did you do it?
Well, Jen, I started off bad, and I kind of hung behind we had a pack of us, had a pack of 3 or 4 of us out there, and I thought we were all riding pretty good together, and then the leaders started separating, and I could see this, and I tried to get around, and I just couldn't. I'd pass them, then ended up making a mistake, or, you know, they'd pass me and making mistakes, just back and forth, and we could just never break away from each other. And then finally, about after gas, Robbie fell, and then Barry gassed again, so I was by myself, and I was just able to ride my own race, and the fans were cheering me on so much, I knew I had to do it for them. They said I could hear them saying I was getting closer and closer, and I see our Yamaha just worked great today, and my Dunlop tires and Race Tech suspension performed flawlessly today.
So Jason Raines, one of the charging up-and-comers, finishes 3rd for the 3rd time this season. Of course, the race win went to Fred Andrews, then Rodney Smith finishing 2nd to clinch the championship. Mike Kudrowski, then Mike Lafferty. Now there's a guy that you've got to feel for. He was in the thick of things all day long. He provided a tremendous amount of excitement, Mark. And at one point, he had dropped to 1 minute, 30 seconds off the pace and then reeled him in. Jen Hildreth is with Mike Lafferty.
Well, Mike, you had a great race. Everything really seemed to be going your way, but tell us what happened on that last lap.
Yeah, I think I probably got a little anxious. I got up close to Rodney, going down the Money Road. I probably picked a bad line. I shouldn't have been going there, and I don't know what I hit. Just hit something and crashed. By the time I got up, I seen you know, 1 guy went by, and I come to find out 2 guys went by, and I put my head down and tried to charge back, but I just didn't have enough there towards the end. I had enough time. And if I had another lap or so, I would have made it back.
Well, Mike does have one more chance to get that first win of the season in 2 weeks at the Ironman.
Well, Mike Lafferty has yet to win, but not through a lack of trying. Now, here is the mud hole that created problems for riders all day long.
Yes, it was, Larry. It was a tricky spot. You can see Mike, he just comes over here, chasing 2 of the best off-road riders in the world, got a little anxious, got cross-rutted, and down he went. I really like the fact, though, that Michael was trying something different. He wasn't following, and that's what you have to do.
Well, if you want to make a pass, you have to do that, and Michael, unfortunately, did not make the pass. He ended up on the ground. Got to feel sorry for him because he rode probably the fastest laps of this racetrack. The guy was just on fire. Well, it's time now for the champagne. They're going to get it out and dump it all over each other. They're not going to wait for us, Mark. Do you have any final thoughts as we watch the bubbly being sprayed?
Yeah, I just can't get over what a great year it's been so far. Rodney Smith, this is his 11th championship in 9 years. Has to be one of the best off-road riders America's ever seen. And Freddie Andrews, Shane Watts, and the rest of the guys, they pushed him to that level.
Well, next week on Fox Sports Net, we will see the season finale for the ATV series, and it is going to be exciting. Like, well, here in the motorcycles, that championship has already been clinched, but an extremely tight battle for second place. So, on behalf of Jen Hildreth, Bob Walker, and my buddy sitting next to me, Mark Hyde, I'm Larry Myers. So long, everyone, and thanks for watching Fox Sports Net and GNCC Racing.